Let's talk about junk history. I'm Graniopteryx. So there's this article in the Telegraph, and she starts off with quoting an interview made by Louis Theroux 20 years ago. Beethoven, black. Mozart, black. William Shakespeare, undoubtedly black, without question. Henry VIII was black too, although the jury remains out on Abraham Lincoln. This scene from an episode of Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends is now more than 20 years old, but in some ways it might as well be 200. That looks to me like a typo. Does she mean in some ways it might as well be, 20 days old? Or 2024 or something. I don't know. It's a bit odd. Anyway, as always with Theroux's documentaries, he's visiting people whose beliefs and lifestyles put them well outside the realms of normality. In this case, members of the Black Hebrew Israelites, a religious movement that claims that African Americans are not only the descendants of the biblical Hebrews, but are also responsible for practically every major invention and moment of progress in human history. Yeah, that's right. When you don't know your own history, when you're not really that proud of your own history, steal somebody else's and pretend it's yours. Yeah, that's quite a common thing, isn't it? Theroux reacts with trademark gentle incredulity, and it is this that so dates the episode. Now, something the BBC might have ridiculed even in 1999 seems to be becoming the stated belief of a growing number of academics, historians, and public intellectuals. No, it's not their belief. It's their money earner. If they can earn money by telling their students that Shakespeare was undoubtedly black, as was Henry VIII, then they'll do that because their child's private education depends on it. And of course, they're assuming that their child will get a good education and the hoi polloi can just shift for itself. What they don't realise is that these things tend to creep upward, and so they're ruining generations, from the ground up. There's been an explosion in a historical propaganda masquerading as official history. No coincidence that it is often aimed at young people. One recent children's history book, Black in Time. Oh, that reminds me. I'll show you a picture. I have it on my phone. I'll put it up here. Of my granddaughter's grade 4 piano examination book. You might find that interesting. I would like to just make the point that the percentage of people of Afro-Caribbean ancestry in Britain is, I don't know what, I mean, it's no greater than 10%. I think it might be a lot less, actually. I don't have the figures here. So it's pretty low. And of those, the ones who are learning the piano are probably a fair amount lower. And, I mean, that kid looks happy enough. That's fine. But I think that was a little bit of social engineering rather than a reflection of reality. Personally, I'd say if it were a Hindu from the Indian subcontinent and Chinese, that's ancestry. They're the ones in families that put, and Jews too, I suppose, put the greatest emphasis on getting their children well-skilled and highly educated. Really. So if we're trying to reflect reality, that kid there should probably be Chinese. Right. Well, anyway, yeah, that's my... Look, first of all, I want to say something here about the Enoch Powell video I made a couple of days ago. I was very impressed by all of you, almost all of you, one or two sillies, but mostly people who disagreed with me about my opinion of Enoch Powell did it... I think the word is supposed to be respectfully. No, it wasn't respectfully. It was just normal. It was just debate. It was just intellectual interchange there. I did appreciate that. When I made that video, I thought, should I do this? Because I know it's going to get me a lot of grief. As a matter of fact, it didn't get me a lot of grief. It got me a lot of very thoughtful responses, and I'm really glad I made that video now. Anyway, yeah, so props to all of you, with one or two tiny, minor, brainless exceptions. It just shows that, I mean, it shows me that the world isn't as stupid as a lot of the pundits would have it. Thank you. Hat tip to all of you. And many very good comments. I mean, really seriously, making really serious points. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get back to this. No coincidence, Black in Time included the Roman Emperor Septimus Severus in a list of awesome Black Britons. Even though he was neither black nor British, but a North African of Romano-Carthaginian descent. Just a minute, I'm going to check this out. Okay, I almost got that right. I thought the Carthaginians spoke an Indo-European language, which would have made them European. Indo-European. But no, they spoke Phoenician, which is a Semitic language, which means they came from the Semitic areas of the world, which are now the Fertile Crescent, which is now Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. That's the Fertile Crescent, and it's all Semitic languages there. And yeah, they didn't come from Africa at all. As I said in a previous video, that Sahara Desert formed a barrier even more vicious than the sea. And I did say a lot of people came to North Africa from the Fertile Crescent, going westwards, and from Europe. And talking about stupid people, one person made the comment, I said they would have come, the easiest route would have been through Spain, Gibraltar, and across. You can actually see the other side from that. A few rafts and comparatively primitive people could have got over into North Africa that way. And somebody said, you don't know what you're talking about. Spain didn't even exist in primitive times. All right, now let's get back to that. I'm digressing a lot. Yes, so he was neither black nor British, but a North African of Romano-Carthaginian descent, which means Romano, Indo-European, Carthaginian, Semitic, from somewhere eastwards, not southwards. Who happened to live in Britain for a few years. Another book goes further, claiming that Stonehenge was built when Britain was a black country. Luton Council has included the pyramids of Giza in a timeline of black history for school children. So here's another article. Pyramids of Giza, part of black history, it says here. Claim is made in an educational resource compiled by, what else? Labour-run Luton Council. It's not just Labour-run Luton Council, because there is a very large community of people of Pakistani origin in Luton. Now, you might say, why would they help to boost the idea that the pyramids were built by black Africans? And my answer is because they don't like Britain. Well, not all of them, obviously, but many of them, especially the ones who seem to go into politics, do not like Britain and will do anything to pick away at British culture. All right, let's get back to this. Such claims aren't just false, but reductive. If the word black is used to refer to anything non-white, it erases a host of histories and experiences in the process. Talk about cultural appropriation. Well, as a Jamaican friend of mine once said, when you point at somebody, you've got three fingers pointing back at yourself. And very frequently you find that people who accuse other people of terrible sins are generally the ones who are committing those sins themselves. And junk history sometimes leads to embarrassing mistakes, as when a BBC plaque commemorating Beachy Head Lady, that is prehistoric human remains that were dug up at Beachy Head and turned out to be female. Beachy Head lady, as the first black Briton, had to be removed after new DNA evidence suggested the ancient skeleton actually came from the East Mediterranean. And there we are, because the East Mediterranean was a tremendously outgoing area at the time. The Phoenicians, they were all over the place. And Britain, it was a good place because you could get tin in Britain, and for a Bronze Age culture, tin was crucially important. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons for the Bronze Age collapse that has been posited as a reason was suddenly tin started to run out, and Bronze Age was being taken over by the Iron Age. Either they couldn't get the tin, so they couldn't make their bronze implements, or people who had discovered how to make implements out of iron finally overpowered them. What made this trend for inventing or misassigning historical figures so odd is that there's documentary evidence for Black British history pre-Windrush. One of the most intriguing figures in early modern England was John Blank, a black trumpeter at the court of Henry VIII, who is believed to have arrived with Catherine of Aragon. So remember, Catherine of Aragon was Spanish, and the Spanish had a lot of Mediterranean contacts. Now, I would suggest that a black person in the retinue of Catherine of Aragon might have been traded as a slave by the Arabs. But whatever, it seems like he was a free man in England, so he was there. There were always some. Wherever you find places with ports, you will find people of different ethnicities who fetched up there, sometimes just temporary, visiting on their ships and then off again, sometimes actually settling down. There is that, but it's minuscule in British history. And this is not confined, by the way, to the rough types in the ports. You find black people turning up in English aristocracy as well, here and there, but not the way the BBC is putting it. His presence tells us much about the movement of people, diplomacy, music and race. When genuine examples like this exist, it's intellectually insulting to lie to future generations about the Druids being early Rastafarians or whatever. But that's not the point, you see. As I said, it's to do with the destruction of British history and British culture. That's what it's about. It's not about black empowerment. The black people are just now tools in the hands of people who want to pick apart British history bit by bit, so that when it's fragmented, it's more easy to overcome in different ways. It becomes weaker, like anything that's being pulled apart bit by bit. It's said that when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold, and the insistence on seeing all history through a politicized BLM-style lens is one example. Junk history isn't just divisive. It often accompanies calls for specific policies such as reparations or open-door migration, often defended on the basis that Britain has always been a nation of immigrants. No, it hasn't. There have been some. And there have been some times when, for instance, the Celtic culture was driven into Wales and completely overtaken by the various sorts of Anglo-Saxons who came from Denmark, or what is now Denmark, and Jutland and Norway maybe. And remember, even the Normans were originally Norse men who settled in what is now northern France. And in fact, a part of northern France is called Brittany because when the Anglo-Saxons were invading the place, a lot of Britons actually went to France. I'm interrupting to remind you to click like and to subscribe and share. Also, I'm constantly being told that YouTube removes subscriptions, so please click the notification bell and check that you really are subscribed. All the links to my other channels are in the description, including links to donation sites I'm always grateful, of course, for donations, but simply clicking like is the best thing you can do for this video and my channel generally. Thank you. It's inevitable that the politics of today will inform how we tell the stories of yesterday, but the further those narratives get from objective reality, the more dangerous it is for us all. Absolutely. But being misinformed is very dangerous. And if we're misinformed about our history, we can't make decent decisions about the future. I shall end with George Orwell, shan't I? He who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future. Okay, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.